What industry is a lot shadier than it seems? My dad knows a story from someone who works for a nationwide grocery chain. They have to deal with an Italian mafia to import balsamic vinegar. More businesses than you think have to deal with mafiosos and gangsters. I once helped the gang relations person with Habitat for Humanity get reassurance that their volunteers would be protected in an American inner city. They apparently always speak with the gangs beforehand for safety reasons. More people died last year over vanilla in Madagascar than cocaine in South America. They've even coined the term vanilla murder. Farmers hire armed mercenaries to guard their crops from thieves near harvest time, and if one is caught, well, let's just say it's in response to all the farmers that were killed by thieves for the same reason. This article is a fairly light read on the subject without anything too graphic, but there's a great deal of information about it floating around, along with some pretty disturbing accounts. The maritime industry. Most of the big companies do things by the book and treat crews well because they are afraid of lawsuits and unions. But many smaller mom and pop companies break laws and violate safety regulations with reckless abandon because they are not as visible and can stay under the radar, so to speak. It's very common for a small company to ask a captain/crew to do something illegal and dangerous in order to increase profit, and for the captain/crew to comply out of fear of losing their jobs. And that's just the US maritime industry. Sailors from poorer nations who work on ships are often fed little more than rice and cheap ramen for months at a time and paid pennies for their back-breaking work. I love running tugs for a living, but the industry as a whole is rife with shady business. IDK if it falls under maritime. But I took one look at the job listing for a cruise ship and now I tell all my cowhawkers to never take a job with one. I'm a stagehand and theater technician. I make decent money fresh out of college, 18 to 24 an hour depending on venue, even without joining the union, because I do specialized work. Looked into a lighting tech spot on a cruise ship, and I'd be getting minimum wage working 50 hours and 7 days a week. Wi-Fi on board costs money out of my paycheck. I'd be in charge of passenger safety off hours. If an alarm goes off and we have to get people onto rescue rafts, I'd have a roommate in a small bunk, and all my wages would go directly into a ship debit card so I could give my income straight back to the company to eat. Something about living and working on a boat in the middle of the ocean seems to make employers think they don't have to actually care for their employees. I can imagine working on a boat that isn't filled with people on vacation would be even worse. FYI, life on a US flagged container ship is actually pretty sweet. Sailors get spacious private accommodations, free Wi-Fi, free full meals a day of varying quality, and a strictly enforced work hour cycle to prevent exhaustion. Go on. Hey man, you're a captain. You should already know. A lot of hobby fish importing is pretty shady. You have farms of certain types of fish like bettas in some areas of the world that are run with the fish in horrible conditions, which is why a lot of the ones you get in a major chain store are sick before you even bring them home. The stores will blame the fish being stressed, but I've ordered and received hundreds of fish from small breeders/sellers and outside of Cory catfish that really enjoy committing suiciding by poisoning their own water. The fish arrive healthy and fine. Outside of boutique fish farming, the way some wild fish are caught is just horrible. The trappers will likely poison the water supply to knock out the fish, then scoop them out of the water without a care for that area's ecosystem. This has led to depletion of some natural species to the point they are now endangered. Lastly, boutique fish sellers/major chains do not give half a rat's ass what happens to the fish in the end. This means that people who buy fish like plecus, bettas, goldfish, etc. end up getting sick of them and dumping them in local waterways to supposedly get rid of the problem. So in some areas, these fish have completely destroyed the local water ecology because, like other invasive land species, they were never meant to be there. One of the worst offenders is the lionfish in Florida. It's venomous and has no natural predators, so its population has exploded out of control. The same is true of plecus and goldfish. Basically, releasing fish into the wild is a terrible idea. Releasing any animal into the wild can have disastrous consequences, but fish are being released into a very limited ecosystem and outside of a few diseases. If they can adapt to the water and have no predators, they will survive and breed incredibly quickly. I love my fish. I love the hobby, and there's a lot of value to it as global warming may make things like reef tanks a valuable source of coral in the future. But there's also a lot of bad to it. I hate seeing bettas for sale, suffering inside those little cups. Just because they can survive under extreme conditions doesn't mean they should be subjected to it. I like to compare it to being forced to live in your bedroom, but it's also your bathroom, and where you eat, but not able to clean it. Like yeah, you can survive, but what kind of quality of life is that? Betters need at least a few gallons of water, filter, heater, and more to thrive. I have a male better in a 10-gallon with heater, filter, live plant CCT. He really flourishes and has quite a personality for such a little fish. They are truly amazing if you give them space and what they need to be happy, especially treats. Same here. I picked up George while shopping for bamboo at Petco and couldn't help but bring him home when he perked up to say hi when I saw him in his sad little cup. Now he's king of the jungle and loves wiggling around through the plants and begging for treats. Edit, here's some more pictures of George. Rating services like Yelp refuse to advertise and your good reviews magically get rearranged. Hey, look, if you want to do that and be transparent, I get it. But most every business owner knows how scummy this is, and most clients just have no idea. I have a business that isn't something that would usually be looked for on Yelp. They called and I just froze. Luckily I do long-term rentals and was sold out. Explained I wouldn't have an opening for months. They seemed to leave me alone. Yet they have my business on the front page of Google search under the wrong category. I read an article a few months ago about a pizza place that Yelp tried to screw over. When rating services like Yelp first started popping up, the owner thought it was a good idea and encouraged customers to leave reviews. He would regularly check reviews. Yelp eventually reached out to make a deal. The owner didn't like the idea and turned them down. Shortly after, he discovered Yelp was taking down any and all high rated reviews. The owner wasn't having any of it, so he started a new promotion. Any customer who leaves a 1-star review of Yelp gets half off their pizza. It became the first 1-star business on Yelp. The place got so popular that Yelp started taking down the 1-star reviews. Dietary supplements. It's gotten better, but there's still a lot of half-truths and whole lies. Not all that long ago it was seriously like the Wild Wild West. And doing your own research is nearly impossible, since the signal-to-noise ratio of the information is so low. All industries are shadier than they seem. I used to work for a flute manufacturer, and it was shady as hell. Deets? I don't want to name the manufacturer, but it was around the 2008 financial crisis and the place was equity owned and leveraged to psmas. The CEO was committing bank fraud and screwing contractors while laying off employees and enriching himself. Was there a whistleblower among the flutists? Eyeglasses. You have no idea the snow job they put most people through when it comes to buying them. It's far worse than trying to buy a new car from a dealership. Wholesale frames are about 5 to 20. Wholesale lens blanks are another 10. Any kind of dip coating of tinting, etc. is negligible cost and effort to apply, literally pennies. To top it off, they don't even do a whole lot in-house, but send it to labs which are basically sweet shops that can take up to 2 to 3 weeks when labor time is literally under 5 minutes. Instead of training real opticians and technicians, they are just glorified sales staff now. Most of the time they don't even bother with proper measurement for PD, frame width, or arm fitting. Was an optician in the early 90s. I'm horrified at what the business has become. I dread going to my optometrist because I know if my prescription has changed I have to deal with salesmen to buy the thing I need to see things. Oh, my insurance covers an extra 15% if I buy this specific brand. That is 30% more than X brand. Hot dog. Cruise ships. I was told I was having a minimum of 1 day off every week and work normal hours 8-10h/day with a good pay and good prepaid tips. I ended up working 30 days in a row, all over 400 hours, for 1600 with tips included. This company I was working for was called Scenic Cruises. Ship was called Manuscript Scenic Crystal, which was an Australian company working over a Swiss company going under a Maltese flag, sailing in Central Europe. That's how I understood it anyways. They deliberately did this so they could break international laws. I counted at least 5 that they broke. Biggest scam company I ever worked for. I resigned after my first month. The police boarded the ship every once in a while because they knew this, but they couldn't dupes because they had no jurisdiction over the ship. I was forced to work with a 39 Celsius fever. I really one-ups this company up, but I literally have no idea how. And hiring an international lawyer or whatever is too expensive. Edit. If anyone knows how, please contact me. They are also huge polluters and dump waste into the ocean. Recruitment industry. Some examples. Fake jobs to lure candidates for registration. KPIS. Trainee negotiation tactics of telling a candidate there is a better candidate who wants less, so we recommend less for you to get the job. Especially for contractors. Coveting off pitching and telling a candidate they have been sent to a line manager, but in reality they haven't been submitted because 2 others from same recruiter have already been in interviews. If they fail you may get a chance. Lot of coded ways to put on a database info on your age, non-professional related appearance, and ethnicity. Ageism, sexism, racism is rampant in hiring. A lot more dodgy stuff behind the scenes. Source: was involved with the industry on a global level for over 15 years before I changed careers. This happens all the time. One airline friend of mine got hired, but there was a caveat that he must be completely outquit from his existing airline before he would receive his job offer. He put in his notice, the new company strung him along, and then basically lied and didn't give him the job. I've seen a similar instance of this where, after leaving his previous company, the new company proceeds to revise their terms to a significant decrease in pay, leaving him no choice but to either stay unemployed or accept the lowball offer. Trucking. The margins are razor thin, and so everyone is trying to nickel and dime each other constantly. The drivers lie to their dispatchers. The dispatchers lie to the brokers lie to the clients. All of this for like 50 to 100 sometimes. I worked in trucking, and the head hour lady for our distribution center was skimming payroll, shorting the checks of the lowest people on the totem pole, then getting cash infusions to petty cash from corporate to return part of the theft as an emergency tied over until the employee's next check, then claiming the rest of the theft as an overage on the next payroll report. I'm probably missing a step in her chain, but I'm not an accountant. It was a scam she managed to work for a couple of years due to a lack of oversight during nationwide management shifts. When she finally got caught, rather than take the bad publicity, the company just let her leave. The last I heard she was working in the same position in an adjacent industry, but still involving transportation. Cest Larvae. Lol, classic accounting scam. It's literally in my Accounting 101 book. Jesus, it sounded like one step away from rocket science to me. I have zero aptitude for accounting. Petty cash accounts typically have no real oversight. There isn't someone verifying the receipts or making sure that an expense is real. So you short someone's paycheck, then they complain. Take the difference plus a small amount from petty cash. Give back the amount originally shorted and keep the difference. Always doing small amounts to avoid raising suspicion. Replenish petty cash account, then lather, rinse, repeat. Avocado farms. Most of the farms in Central America are taken over by the cartel because of how much money is in selling avocados. I'm surprised there aren't more in the US. Avocado trees are damn picky. Only grows in certain places, and if everything isn't absolutely perfect, they die. And they need a ton of water. I took a seed out of one I ate and got it to sprout enough to plant, and it grew about an inch before it wrote a suicide note and gave me the finger. And that plant probably would never have produced fruit, if that makes you feel any better. Kinda, yeah. Pet industry. Basement puppy mills and dogs that are so inbred they can hardly breathe. There are plenty of ethical breeders out there and some unlicensed breeders are ethical, even if in a legal gray zone, but the conditions of some of the so-called puppy mills can be really bad. Sometimes when breeds are mixed, and the pup gets the recessive genes the breeders weren't looking for, they straight up euthanize it, because they know it won't sell. Not to mention how many purebreds are actually not pure at all, and sold as is. Shady. Not to mention the idiots who breed two merles to each other in hope of getting a healthy double merle male. This chance is incredibly low, and breeding two merles together generally produces puppies with eye and hearing malformations among others. But if you can get that magic male, he'll throw all merle puppies, and people like that pattern. So, I can ID a double merle Aussie or BC from a single photo, and every time I see one I rage. The poor things have a poor quality of life and they are typically dumped on rescue by the breeder. Got the entire pet industry built around trendy paint jobs on animals regardless of the animal's quality of life. I'm into exotic reptiles and the ball python market is flooded with in-demand color and pattern mutations that cause known neurological problems in the animals, and people still pump them out because people will trip over themselves to drop fat stacks on a cool looking snake that corkscrews and shakes. It's infuriating.